So first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Dionysia Kouchi. I'm an urban planner with a PhD on issues related to local development and participatory planning. And today I'm here as representing commonspace, a group of practitioners from Greece working on issues of the city, urban planning, and having as a horizontal approach in our work, participatory planning, which is also the subject of our today's work. And I hope that by the end of this course, you will be able to understand how this kind of approaches can also be merged and integrated in your own activities. So let me share my screen here with you. Okay, great. Hope you can see the presentation. You're fine? Okay, great. So in the first part of this presentation, we will see the theoretical ground of participatory planning, some historical facts and theories, seeing how it started and how it became and took the level of significance that it has today. Then instead, the second part, we will move from theory to practice and we will see some methodological issues and tools. And we will also focus on how we can do participatory planning in practice. And we will see some facilitation techniques if imagining that we have this role of an interdisciplinary team of planners that are let's say, called to do a participatory exercise. This will also be more active in the third part of this course, where we will work on a real case example and we will build together a participatory plan as an initial part, let's say, of this process. So, of course, the presentation is interactive. So if you have any questions, just interrupt me and we can define something or say something more in more detail if needed. So as I said, the goal of this course is to bridge the theory of participatory planning with practical implications. We will see some real-world examples before moving to the case study that we will work together. And I will try to introduce you to all this concept of participatory planning, aiming to understand why it is so critical and imperative these days. So, participatory planning started initially, it's not something new, although in countries like Greece, for example, where I'm coming from, it's something that the recent years has been more integrated in the planning world. It's not something new. It started back in the 60s and 70s, where it started in the post-war period as a movement, as a reaction, let's say, to the more modernist approach of how bottom-up approaches were, not top-down approaches, were realized in this post-war period. Later on, because it was considered to be a really critical aspect on how planning is becoming and takes into account the local needs and qualities, it became a methodology and took also in a theoretical background a very significant framework. All these years, different academics and practitioners tried to define participatory planning and create a more concrete definition on that. One of the definitions that actually we can say that can summarize somehow, and it's more representative, is the one coming from Creighton from 2005, who defines the participatory process as a process in which concerns, needs, and values of a social group are integrated into decision making, both in the point of view of the government, the public policies, and also from the point of view also from the local community's needs. Because it's if I tried to explain and present to you all the definitions that are out there about participatory planning, we will need only specific one presentation about it. I have integrated some reference at the end of the presentation. It will be available for you afterwards. But if we, let's say, pointing the core features that a definition like that these definitions have in common. The first one is that ensures the interaction between the institution, the agency, the representative that makes these decisions, the one responsible for the decision and the planning, and the people who actually participate and are affected by these decisions. So we can say that the participatory planning approach is the bridge and the communication mean between these two parties. The second part is that it's a structured process. So it's not a spontaneous dialogue, but it has a goal, it has a defined time frame and methodology, and it needs facilitation techniques in order to make sure not that you control, but you monitor the process in order to reach a final outcome that can be impactful and can be useful after in order to achieve the final goal. The third one refers to the participants who have a significant degree of influence. You do a participatory planning approach in order to gather input and make sure that this input is used in order to not change, but affect in a degree a decision, a plan, and improve, let's say, the process of decision making. And finally, the fourth feature is the application in the development of the policies by many and various public and public bodies. So we have at the end the actual implementation and the actual, let's say, the reaction of the public and policy and private bodies to these decisions. Here, we can see summarized the aspects of modernist planning and how participatory planning came to change the mentality around how planning is realized. So we can see that the modernist planning was top-down, was more technocratic, standardized, and it was dismissive in most of the case of the local input. I don't think that we are far away also in the current period of how planning is realized, but participatory planning in a lot of cases has influenced public policies. So we can see some actions, although more, let's say, dispersed, where bottom-up, inclusive, and more holistic, integrated approaches and focused more on local needs are evident in some cases. After the years, of course, this approach, this mentality affected and a lot of practitioners of the time, and several approaches and theories combined, let's say, framed the participatory planning approach. One of them is, for example, the pattern language, which was introduced by Christopher Alexander, which was, let's say, a more organic definition on how you observe users when they use a space. We have later an example on that, so you can understand more what this pattern language is. Another example is the transactive planning, which captures, let's say, the influence of how social and political movements can promote, if they are integrated in policymaking, can promote greater inclusivity, democracy, and community involvement. Other theories, mostly used by architects, of course, is the open architecture, which let's say represents the idea of buildings that are transformed and are more adjustable in terms of the features that they have in order to be adjusted to the needs of the users. Like, for example, in universities, they used in public spaces different desks and chairs and furniture that can be moved around the space in order to fit better the needs in a daily basis. Here we can see the example I said before about the pattern language. What is interesting, you can see here, the pattern language is the way that they captured the way users used the space every day. So we can see in the first plan here, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, which means that in that way, it's how the space looked like in its day. So in this way, Christopher Alexander created a space that was involved organically every day, and it was a very, let's say, radical aspect of that time. Now moving a little bit forward to the contemporary approaches of participatory planning. After 2008, where the financial crisis and also the rapid change and the appearance of a set of global challenges like climate change and the need for more inclusivity, resilience, and sustainability brought a wave, let's say, of demand in a global level on approaching in a more just, in more justice and inclusive way how we plan our cities, how we make decisions, and how housing and also urban planning and mobility is formed. So then is the time where we can see even more integration of participatory approaches into the urban life. So just here we will see some examples that are more contemporary, and then we will move forward to a more detailed example from Greece, where we will see how even today, 2 years ago, we implemented an example in Greece and how we can see that participatory planning is integrated also in different themes and aspects. So we will start with some architecture examples. Here we can see an exceptional, let's say personality on participatory planning and open architecture examples. Here it's Alejandro Aravena, an architect from Chile and winner of a Pritzker Prize in 2016. He is known for his architectural design and the high degree of inclusivity in his work. Here we can see an example of it. He introduced the concept of half of a good house because he was called to create social housing in Chile, where the budget was very limited for its family. So he decided to use this amount and create a significant part of all the necessary utilities that a good house should have: bathroom, kitchen, and bedroom. And then he left the other half of the house empty, so it can gradually be developed with the funds that the family would have over the years. So in this way, he created an equal, let's say, basis, and then it was up to the family to develop the house on their own, let's say, resources. Here, it's another example from Barcelona, the example of Laborda housing, where after a significant level of participatory design with the community, the the architects there created this cooperative housing. The future residents co-designed the buildings. They also made decisions on how the community spaces would work and what the form it would have. And the interesting thing is that they participated in all phases, starting from the needs assessment, even to the layout of the community spaces. And another fact is that the residents were not owners of the house, but they had the right to use it through the cooperative. And here we will see in more detail a project that we worked with commonspace in Greece 2 years ago, where we can see also the developmental aspects of participatory planning and how it can be used in order not only to ensure, let's say, equal planning and architecture, but also how it can be used in a municipal level. The project I'm referring to is the Cultural Hydrant Project. It's a project funded by the Urban Innovation Actions of the European Union. And it was a collaboration of them. It was at the municipality of Halandri, which is one of the, let's say, near to the center, but mostly close to the north municipalities of Athens, and the national authority responsible for water management, commonspace, and an architecture firm and other small organizations in order to activate local communities. So the scope of the project was to map the route of the Adrian's Adequate, which was an ancient adequate running under the municipality and crossing 7 municipalities in total, and use it not only in order to promote it from a cultural perspective, but also actually use it in order to provide the water back to the citizens and promote more environmental friendly practices into the neighborhoods. So the innovation of this project was this multiple use of different uses, and the approach that the water element is both an environmental and cultural common that should be provided back to the citizens. In order to understand how this can be realized, several participatory workshops took place, and also in different levels. We discussed with local authorities, with local municipalities, with ministers, with all the policy in a policy-making level. Then we had several collective mapping and community mapping exercises in different neighborhoods. And we also did several participatory exercises with schools. The interesting thing is that although the initial plan was smaller, the interest was so high that we eventually visited more schools than the initial plan. Because the aim was to co-design this the schoolyard together with the students and connected, because there were schools that was nearby from a part that the water from the Adriano Adequate runs beside. So the aim was to connect this with the school and how it affects students' lives. So here you can see some examples of the workshops where we mapped how the students feel around about the positive and negative aspects of their school and the general neighborhood, and how it is connected with the Adrian and Adequate. Here is the initial part where we mapped the positive and negative aspects and also invite them to put some ideas on of improvement. For example, here we can see on the sketch that they indicated some problems like here there is a damage on the ground, or here the plants are placed in a bad position. And here with the green, we can see some ideas and proposals. Like here we need new baskets, maybe. Or here we need more sitting spaces in order to watch the water here. Here you can see how all these ideas were included in a proposed plan by the architectural team. And we are very happy also to show you this picture, which is from the actual implementation of the schoolyard in one of the schools in Halandri at the 6th secondary school, where you can see also the benches here and the new setting and also the colors that were selected by the students. Do you have any questions from this part? From the online participants? No. Okay, I can proceed. So here you can see the references I mentioned before. So if you are more interested in searching some things about the theories or the more theoretical framework, you can see here. And now I'm going to proceed further to the second part, which refers to the tools and methods, in order to understand better what participatory planning means in terms of methodology and actual practice. Participatory planning is not, although since 1969, Einstein created this participatory planning ladder, which represents the levels and the degrees of participation that can found on different aspects. Although it is back in 1969, it's still a methodology and still a framework that is used by participatory experts to understand the level of participation that we seek in every situation. So if we are at the first steps of the ladder, is the place where, let's say, we are trying to communicate somehow an already decision made. So it's not a level of actual participation. At the second, when we are here, at the second level, we are starting to include and integrate comments and informing stakeholders and taking into account also in already somehow formed, for example, maybe in this place when we are at the middle of a process and we start communicating a process, a plan that is going to happen, and we just need somehow of approval. So we are, let's say, in the second step. When we are going upper to the third step, which is defined here at the green place, we are at the actual more engaged and empowered kind of participation, where actually the planners, the decision makers, and the local community create somehow a partnership in order to achieve a common goal. Of course, in some cases, this is not it. This is more a more advanced level of participation, and it's not always the one that we found always in practice. Each level of participation, as we can see here, informed, consult, involved, and so on, of course, is connected with different methods and different goals. If I just want, for example, to inform a group of people about a decision, about a plan that is going to happen in their neighborhood, I can use presentations or different dissemination means like leaflets or something like that, or do a public awareness event and invite a general public to do this kind of presentation. When we start moving to more engaging practices, we can see also that the means that I use are also differentiating. For example, when we are here in the step of collaborate, mapping ideas and more engaging and co-creation solutions and gathering expertise and scientific knowledge, which are probably in more initial steps of the planning process, are selected from the planning team, because we need a higher level and we need to find more integrated means in order to ensure that local stakeholders are actively involved in the process. What do we mean when we say that participatory planning is a structured methodology? We have a series of steps when we are planning a methodology, the ones that we are also going to see today in the exercise. So we can see that the process has three concrete phases. First, we start with the preliminary stage, which is the part where the planning team meets and needs to decide and create the whole participatory planning process from the very beginning. So, first of all, you need to define the action of the objective. For example, in the example of the school, when you have a group of people, of course, it's impossible to cover all the things or all the aspects. Or if you want to cover different things, you need different participatory exercises. If you want to talk with the students, you need a different process from the one when you talk with the municipality or another level of policymakers. So in the first part, you need to understand, for example, an objective in this case, it could be, I want to understand how the students interact with their schoolyard, understand the current situation. Or I want to co-create with them a plan for the future image of their schoolyard. So this is the initial goal. And then you steadily break down this process. First of all, we have to map what kinds of stakeholders we need to integrate in this process. But this is not the only, it's not only the list that we have, but we need also to understand the power dynamics among them, because even when we have, let's say, the mayor and the president of the school, and also the representative of the Association of Parents and Students, these three representatives have a different power dynamic among them. For example, maybe the mayor has the power because they have the money to say, okay, it's different to have 100,000 euros and different to have 1 million euros to do the innovation, for example. So we can understand in this way let's say the weight of the opinion of the stakeholders involved. In the third step, we have to inform the participants of the process, what we're going to do, what we are going to ask them, and make sure that they are all informed for the whole process from the very beginning till the end. Then we set the agenda. It's really necessary because our time, of course, it's not infinite. We need to have a plan and need to know that we have this amount of time to discuss 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things in order to correspond to our initial objective. and then to connect these targets with the necessary facilitation techniques and tools. In the second phase, our facilitation role starts. So it's necessary to make sure that we can inspire our team to be engaged in the whole participatory process and be able to, let's say, create a dialogue more active among them. Then we need to synthesize the results and define with them the next steps. Here, it is important to mention that they are a group of people coming, spending their time, their experience, and everything with you. So it is important to know that they are going to take something back. This can be the summary of what you did. Maybe in the case of the planning with the school, for example, that this plan was submitted to the municipality and they actually saw the whole process that they're saying eventually led after 3 years to an outcome, they can see that their contribution actually had an impact. So this is really important to build trust and make sure that the citizens remain active in the whole process. In the final phase, we have the evaluation of the process, and there we document the whole process. We share the results with everyone involved and ask for the feedback because each participatory planning exercise is different, and it's also really critical for us to make sure that we spot our weaknesses and getting every time improved and improved. So let's see, because also in the exercise, we will focus in the first part, the preliminary phase, and how we build this kind of processes. Let's see each step. Let's divide each step and see in more detail what this means. So starting with the definition of, by defining the actions objective. Of course, it's not only one objective for its case. We can combine, of course, different ones, but if we have a case study, we can understand if we can choose if we want to collect an opinion about a decision, for example, from a selected group of people. Maybe our goal is to raise awareness on a specific issue, to do field observations. For example, we can have a walk with a set of people, and all together we can do some mapping of the weaknesses and the advantages of an area. We can co-create solutions. We can map ideas. We can do participatory monitoring and evaluation, which also comes in a lot of also research and scientific-based participatory planning exercises. And also, we can use a group of experts. For example, if we are dealing with more complex issues like, for example, climate change and in urban settings, as individuals or even as a planning team, we cannot know everything. So we need a group of people with different expertise and different perspective to give us a feedback and improve even our own knowledge on a specific issue. This is not only the case for a specific expertise, but maybe also the user experience in this way is a really significant addition, because of course we're planners, or for example, when it comes to transport, but gathering the input from the users of a bus line, for example, is really important to do some improvements in the transportation network. Now, what I said before about the understanding this power dynamics of the stakeholders, there are significant tools available that can help us map and understand and visualize somehow how all these stakeholders interact and how they can influence the decision, the final decision made. So in the diagram here on the left, we can see that we start from listing all the stakeholders. We gather information about them, and we, through a set of questions, we will see them in the exercise. We can analyze their influence and interest and power within this specific. Of course, without the objective, we cannot do anything, because you need to know your case in order to understand the significant power of a specific stakeholder, because in every setting, in every objective, these dynamics can change. Our role is different in the different environments that we are active. Then, of course, we start to engage them in the process, and we can create a stakeholder matrix, which is the diagram that we can see here on the right, where we can see it in different with different, let's say, labels in the axis, but the terms of power and influence is the one most commonly used. So here we can see that in this axis we have the power of the stakeholder, and it means the power to change the decision that or the plan that we are working on in this current project. And here we can see the influence, how they can influence, because these two things can be different. Of course, here in the four boxes, we have here in the orange one is the more, let's say, critical one, because we have at the same time high influence and high power. Here we have high power but low influence. Here in the monitor we have low influence and low power, but here maybe we are talking about the people that are maybe affected indirectly from a decision. So it's important also to have their input in some cases. For example, here in the example of the school, can be the neighborhoods of the schoolyard, because it's something that, okay, they can see the schoolyard, but they are not actual users of the schoolyard. So they can be informed, but they are not so able to influence the decision. Here we can see a high influence, but low power, which is also one of the I think we will see it also in practice while we're discussing it, but I think here lots of the stakeholders come because a lot of people may influence and be influenced by a decision, but the power the actual power to change the decision is in some cases limited. And here we go to the more, let's say, critical aspect when it comes to participatory planning, planning a participatory planning, because we need to create the script. It's a table that we use in our participatory exercises, where it's the detailed schedule in order to know in each step what is going to happen. It's a process where you visualize, even from before, what is going to happen actually on the field. Of course, we cannot prevent everything, but it's good to know, to have a plan and know what you may be needed and what to expect in its time frame. So here it's an actual example of a project we ran with commonspace some years ago. The target of this workshop was to co-design together with local stakeholders the future, the tourism future of their island. So we did a participatory workshop with two phases. The first one the first one mapped the current situation and the connection of the stakeholders with their island and their cultural elements. And on the second part, we had the visioning part where we co-designed the future of, we built together this statement. So you can see here an example of the first part of the workshop, where we're saying that, okay, we start at 5 and we have for half an hour the registration and the welcoming part. And what we will need about that, we need the registration list, we need coffee, and the final result were to make the participants feel welcome and ready. Then we have an initial welcome presentation from the mayor, and also we presented the project and the aim and why we gathered there today. So we used the presentation, and we will need the projector to show the slide and so on. Then we had an icebreaker. We will see some examples later what an icebreaker means and why it is important in participatory planning exercises. In this case, we asked the participants to bring an object from home and tell us a story related to it, to understand how what are their feelings from their island. And unfortunately, there's a I don't know if you can see the last line of the presentation. It's a little bit. It's cropped. Was because it was from another laptop, but okay. I will explain. Here we can see the last part of the first day, where we say that we co-designed some cultural routes together. So in this part, we mapped some cultural elements, and then we co-created the cultural routes with them. So participatory mapping was used. We needed maps, post-it markers, and also pins in order to make to visualize all these aspects on map. And the final goal was to create this dialogue, to share this cultural assets understanding, and also to create the routes that we walk the next day. So with this kind of representation, it's easy to keep track of the work, and also to, let's say, somehow visualize what you are going to need in this kind of processes. And now, I think the most creative part, after having setting the goal, is to decide how you're going to work and what methods and what tools you're going to use. We will see some examples of tools and methods that are used mostly in this kind of workshops. But first of all, it's important to understand that, of course, not all methods and not all tools are appropriate in every situation. Always the objective is really important, because I will work different with kids that are 5 years old, and different with professionals and experts of a specific field. So in this way, who is affected is really important, and who I'm going to involve. And of course, constraints are also there due to time and budget, because it's different to have 1 week, 2 months, and a year to do a whole participatory exercise, and different to have different funding resources. So, starting with the division of methods and tools. When we are talking about methods, we are talking about the strategy that we follow in order to engage the stakeholders. It's somehow the how I'm going to approach the subject. The tools is the specific instruments and techniques that are used in order to make sure that the methods are achieved. I have some examples here so we can understand better what I mean. For example, the public meetings is the method. So the tools in order to ensure that the public meetings can happen is, for example, the presentation or a roundtable or the gathering of a small or a large group. Of course, each method and tools and set of tools have a set of strengths and a set of limitations. In this case, the public meetings, it's easily understood by all users and stakeholders. So it's an easy, let's say, process to follow up. But at the same time, because of that, you can engage a very large group, but the input that you take somehow you cannot ensure that it's representative. Other limitations, especially for the facilitators, is that you cannot somehow control and monitor the whole process, because in most of the cases you have a large group, and the participants cannot actually feel connected, let's say, with the subject, but it's more like a presentation or an event, and not a really engaging process that can be impactful at the end. So now we are going to see some methods and tools and understand how they work. And I will start with the ice breaking. The ice breaking is an exercise, let's say. We will do also one in the workshop, so be prepared, everyone, to talk here today. It's a very short activity that helps the group to open up a little bit, to start feeling comfortable in order to contribute, and start to create, let's say, a sharing cycle and a dialogue and an atmosphere among the participants. Some examples are fun games that may be used, sharing of some personal stories, for example, through specific questions. Introductory questions like, where are you from? And a lot of people may, okay, if we are from Greece, and you raise up the hand or you stand up, because also movement in this kind of practices is also, especially if you are in an event and you are hearing for 4 hours presentations, then you need some activation in order to make sure that you are being activated. And then another also part is sharing photographs and personal items in order to, like the example we saw in Leros. Now moving forward a little bit to the participatory methods per se. One that you may have heard already is the focus groups. And the focus groups is a structured discussion led in most of the cases by a trained facilitator in such kind of practices. Is referred to a small group of participants, and they are representatives of a specific field or sector. And the goal of this kind of method, when we want to gather opinions, perception, expertise, as we also said before in the goals, it's a good method, because in this way you have typically a group around 6 to 10 people. You set a specific time frame for questions, and you have a set of questions, for example, 5, 8, I don't know, and you invite them to ask the same question in the same specific time frame, but they are all answering the same question from their own perspective. So it's really helpful in this way to gather the input from these different perspectives. Of course, they can somehow have in mind what the others said, but the actual goal is not to create a discussion among them, but to let's say, it's like an open interview. Then we have the collective mapping method, which is a method that involves gathering participants around the map and ask them to put a spatial dimension in their input. Here we can, in this way, we can understand the relationship of the users with the space. For example, a mapping experience was the one that we saw with the schoolyard. It has a strong visualization. It's a strong visualization method. And in order to realize it, we can use different tools. We have maps where and also some digital application can also be used in order to capture this kind of practice, but we will see some examples also at the tools, in the tools. Now, moving forward to the tools, a tool that we may use in order, for example, to do one of the exercises to implement some of the methods that we use is brainstorming. It's a technique where, of course, we have all used brainstorming in all the phases of our lives. And most of the times we don't know that it's an actual participatory tool. It's a process where it can be in practice implemented in different ways. It can be we can have an open discussion, or we can take some individual time for 1 minute and then contribute to an open dialogue. Here, we can see the SWOT analysis tool. I don't know if you are from the planning sector. Of course, you have already used it for more than 1 million times. It's a tool that can be used in order to understand the 4 categories of features, strengths and weaknesses, which relate to the actual, let's say, if we are talking about the schoolyard. I'm using this example all the time because I think it creates a continuation, so maybe it's helpful for you to understand it better. In this way, if we want to capture the strengths and the weaknesses, we will talk about the actual school and its schoolyard. So we will focus on the problems that are found in the school. When we are talking about opportunities and threats, is the 2 features that relate with the external environment of the school. For example, some opportunities would be if public transportation, for example, could support the movement of the students to the school. So if a new park would be developed at the surroundings of the school. So it's something that it comes from outside, but it's beneficial for our case study. The threats at the same time are also some negative aspects coming from outside. For example, we can say that the increase of temperature or the floods that may occur because of the river along the school in this specific case may be a significant threat to our case study. In our work in urban planning, and regional planning, the tool of spatial SWOT analysis is also really beneficial. I have included here some links. You will have the presentation afterwards, so you will have these links if you want to search about these examples more. The spatial SWOT analysis is the way of mentioning all these features on map. In some cases, we use different colors of stickers to indicate these different features, or if we want to be more creative, we create maps that has a strong material beneath the map, and you can use pins with different colors to indicate in a spatial level the different features of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, we are moving forward to a more, let's say, problem-solving tool, and in a process where we are trying to find the roots of a problem and eventually lead us to the to the solutions. So this is the problem tree tool. At the core, this is a visual example, but we can also create it with stickers, or if someone is really, let's say, good at handwriting, we can just draw a tree and do it on paper. Here we can see that at the center of the tree, we put the core problem that we want to solve. We want to investigate more. At the roots, we do a brainstorming activity, and we put the different root causes that we think that are related with our core problem, and then we move forward to the effects and write down what are the consequences of this core problem. In this way, then in the final stage, we can connect with different arrows the roots with the effects. So in this way, we can understand this cause-effect dynamics among our case study features and lead us to the next step in a more problem-solving exercise. Here we have a method which took a very that the students of the previous time that we did this lecture were really fascinated about that. I don't know why, but I really want to see your reaction also on that. There is a very easy tool that can be used in participatory practices, which is called 5 whys. In this way, we set the problem. For example, here we can see an example. We have the problem of the bacterial contamination of that occurred, and you ask why. And the first answer is the salad were not properly washed before packaging. And then you ask again, why? Because the automated washing equipment was not functionally optimally. Why? We have the third why. Because regular maintenance schedules were not consistently followed. Why? We have the fourth why. Because the maintenance team was understaffed and overwhelmed with other priorities. Why? And then we have the fifth why, where we found that budget constraints led to a reduction in staffing levels. So in this way, by asking constantly why, it is documented that at the fifth why, you can find, let's say, the root cause of your problem. Also, you can annoy a lot of people if you're doing it in several times. So that's why maybe it's interesting. Of course, the digital transformation also affected participatory planning exercises, especially after the COVID, where every physical workshop transferred in an online environment. So we have a very wide set of practices, or a very wide set of tools that can also be found online. Here I have included a lot of, not a lot, but some of the of tools that you may want to try and create some. In most of the cases, it's easy to make some visuals. I didn't include the collaborative platforms like Miro, because we are going to see it also in practice, and you will be more, let's say, you will interact more with that. And I think I'm closing to the end with the presentations. Another aspect that is really important to know when it comes to facilitation is that you have a very significant role, and you are not just an observant of this kind of practices. So we have in InPlaLabs project, we have also produced a participatory guidebook. So if you're interested in knowing more on what facilitation actually means and how you can be a good facilitator, you can see that and get a step-by-step and more concrete examples of what that means. Here I have included some core aspects of what actually a good facilitation could look like. So some critical aspects is that it is important for you to make the participants feel comfortable and engaged. So this kind of ice-breaking activities can ensure that, and in this way you can you somehow start with an engaging activity that make them feel comfortable. It's important to set the agenda and set the expectations and make sure that everyone understands the process. Eliminate the barriers to participation, because within the same group you can find different dynamics when it comes to how you can express and identify some aspects of the process. So you need to understand that some people are not so active or maybe shy in expressing themselves. So you need to keep the balance among the team. You facilitate, you don't direct, you don't suggest, you just try to engage them in the process and not direct them to your expected outcome. It's important to wrap up and give them the feedback back, and always be prepared, because you never know what can be happen in a participatory exercise. And even if the theme is challenging, of course, arguments and very unexpected discussions and turn of the events could happen. Of course, as we said before, we need to have the evaluation stage where we gather the input, and it's time to improve, to make sure that we gather the feedback that help us improve our practices and way of working in the future. And here you can see an example of what a participatory plan could include. So we can start with an introduction, saying what are the objectives, what we're going to do, and so on. Then we need a brief discussion of the case study, because it will also help us as facilitators to understand that, okay, this is the municipality we're working, this is the school, that we have so many students, and so on. You document all the steps that we discussed, the preparation of the process and the planning step by step. Then you write down the participatory exercise structure. You can use the workshop script, and where you mention the material, the agenda, the invitation, the poster, and all the material that you may use, because we cannot forget that it's an engaging process. So you need dissemination and you need communication with the participants to make sure that they show up at the process and the evaluation process that you'll follow at the end. Here you can see again some other references that are more connected with the tools and methods that we saw, and the structured processes and the step that we saw in this part. And from this point on, we are discussing we are going to the exercise. So I propose 10 minutes break, and then we will, I think we can do 2 teams, because we have the participants here that are on site and the online participants, and we will see afterwards. I think it will be easy to work in these 2 phases, so we can see these things in practice. I don't know if you have any questions before the break.
I wanted to ask if you have used the EIT training to keep the toolbox for the participatory methods.
Not yet.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
It has several of the tools that you have shown. It's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Thank you.